Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Deck Musings. So this week in the Deck Musings episode we're here. Interesting period. So we've gone from a standard that had 2 blocks and Cold Snap plus 9th edition to a standard that has 2 blocks, Cold Snap and 10th edition. So we've had a core set swap. And I think I'd mentioned previously the lead into this was really interesting because previously, over the course of 3 sets coming into standard, making standard larger and larger, it actually hadn't introduced any duplicates. However, when we get 10th edition, clearly that it introduces 18 duplicates. And so overall, we don't actually end up with that much of a difference card-wise between the standard that had 9th edition in it versus the standard that had 10th edition. You can see there's only a difference of 6 cards, even though 9th edition had 339 cards in it and 10th edition had 363. Yeah, so I just thought I'd point that out. Quite interesting meta in standard during this period, as you can see here. Interesting list of things. And the nationals were going on in this time period from July to October. And then next week we're going to take a look at Worlds, but let's look at this period for this week. So, out of this wonderful list here, what am I going to pick? So we're going to take a look at the Japanese Nationals in 2007, and the winning deck for that was Goyf Rack, a very interesting deck. You can see in the top 8, there are actually 2 Goyf Rack decks. So this is the one we're going to be looking at. If you look at the other one in the top 8, I don't know how easy is that to see the difference, but you'll probably notice slightly more variety of lands in there. You'll also notice, less creatures than other spells in both cases. Interesting sideboard, some cards we've seen already. And then they were up against other cards, other decks as well. So Swathe Storm, something called Project X, a Solar Flare deck, a Blink deck, another Solar Flare deck, and Blue-Black Pickles. Now, what do we start to notice with all of these? Well, to me, what sort of leaps out is that apart from, I think, the Blink and the Project X deck, there's definitely instances where there's more non-creature spells and creature spells, apart from those 2 decks. Also, we get this deck, which is Swathe Storm, which looks like no creatures. There's some stuff in the sideboard, but yeah. So lots of interesting things going on. The other thing that you will notice in all of these decks, very diverse land base, particularly a large number of non-basic lands in here. Now, as we'll see, the way standard was at that time, and to some degree previously, when we had like all of 2 blocks. So Ravnica, Time Spiral, and Cold Snap, and then the core set as well. And both 9th and 10th have reprints of dual lands in them. So yeah, that's all contributing to this very diverse land base, wide range of choices. So yeah, let's have a look at the Goyf Rack deck. So, a bit of a giveaway, there's 2 namesake cards in here. The Rack, Care of, being a time-shifted time spiral card, which comes from, pre-modern era of Magic. So with these cards you get the unusual purple symbol, but also they're in the older frame. So we've got 4 racks in here, 1 to cast, and as it comes into play you choose an opponent. Now, at the beginning of the chosen player's upkeep, the rack deals X damage to that player, where X is 3 minus the number of cards in his or her hand. So if you've got say the opponent's got 0 cards in hand, then 3 minus 0 is 3, so it's going to do 3 damage. It's basically going to bolt them. And the idea in this deck, or what you want to happen, is for your opponent to have as few cards in their hand as possible. So that's what you're aiming for. And what's nice is, that strategy of emptying your opponent's hand also plays into the fact that Tarmogoyf's power and toughness are scaling off of card types in all graveyards. So with Tarmogoyf, generally you just want loads of stuff in graveyards, but with the rack, particularly, emptying your opponent's hand. So it'd be interesting to see when we look at the deck, what sort of stuff is causing our opponent to mill, which is going to help with this and Tarmogoyf. But also, are there other cards which are just sending stuff to our opponent's graveyard, which is going to help with the Tarmogoyf. So what have we got creature-wise? So we've got 4 Augur of Skulls. It's 1/1 for 2. You can regenerate it for 1 and a black. You can sack it, and target player discards 2 cards. Play this ability only during your upkeep. So Augur of Skulls can be sacked, and you can choose. You can let it just go to your graveyard, and then your opponent or a player is going to discard 2 cards. Now you can target yourself here, so maybe you might want to do that if you want to pump the Tarmogoyf, and there's certain cards in your hand that are of certain card types which are going to contribute here. So that's a possibility. The other thing you can do is, of course, you can set up a regeneration on this. So, when you sack it, it can then regenerate. We've got Dark Confidant, 1 and a black. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. We've got 4 copies of Terror. It's a way of dealing with non-artifact, non-black creatures, and they can't be regenerated. Land base is interesting. We've got 2 Golgari Rot Farms. So this is the black-green bounce land from Ravnica, and they were spread out. If you remember, the cycle was spread out across the set as a whole in a 4-3-3 configuration. Then from 10th edition we've got the blue green one from a cycle that was in 10th edition. We've also got access to Overgrown Tomb from Ravnica. So there's a cycle of these in Ravnica. We've got 7 swaps in here. 7 swamps on, including the artwork from 10th edition. We've got 4 Treetop Villages, also from 10th edition. So this is one of these creature lands that was in 10th edition. And then we've also got Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth in here, which is a legendary land. Just 1 copy of that. Each land is a swamp in addition to its other land types. So when you look at this, you'll see that the green, there's no green basic lands in here. All of the green is either coming from these dual lands or from Treetop Village. We've got 18 sorceries. We've got 4 Cries of Contrition, so a single black. Target player discards a card. It does have Haunt on it, so when the spell card is put into the graveyard, after resolving, remove it from the game, haunting target creature. And when the creature that it haunts is put into the graveyard, target player discards a card. We've got 4 copies of Smallpox, 2 black. Each player loses 1 life, discards a card, sacrifices a creature, then sacrifices a land. So, in terms of the stuff you're losing, you're discarding a card, maybe your hand's empty anyway, so might not affect you. Sacrificing a creature, sacrificing a land, that's going to help here with Tarmogoyf. The discarding of the opponent's hand is going to help with the rack. For Call of the Herds, we've seen this a few times now. So this is this 2 and a green, put a 3/3 green elephant creature token into play. It does have flashback as well. And this again was coming from the time shifted time spiral cards. And so was this as well, Stupor. So it's interesting the sort of utility that came in to standard during that period from cards that are, predate what came to be known as modern ultimately, with the old cardboard, the old borders. We've got 2 Damnations. So this is the colour shifted Wrath of God. And then in our sideboard, we've got 3 Darkblasts. So we get old -1/-1 to a creature until end of turn for a single black. Also has Dredge on it though. So this is interesting. So you've got a choice here. It says if you would draw a card, instead you may put exactly 3 cards from the top of your library into your graveyard. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to your hand, otherwise draw a card. So it's interesting, again, interacting with Tarmogoyf and helping adding to those card types. Also notice here, and we'll probably come on this when we go down the rabbit hole, it's referencing a card type which isn't available yet. Now, also in the sideboard, a couple of cards which we've seen before. So, Extirpate, single black. It's a split second, so in effect faster than an instant, because as long as the spell is on the stack, players can't play spells or activated abilities aren't mana abilities. You get to choose a target card in a graveyard other than a basic land. Search its owner's graveyard, hand and library for all cards with the same name as that card and remove them from the game. Then that player shuffles his or her library. So you can do this in order to sort of deal with some sort of combo or some sort of threat that you know just because of the type of deck that they're playing that you want out of their out of their side of the game. Now we've also got 2 Riftsweepers. Now this is interesting because this can interact with the exile zone. So it says when it comes into play, choose a target face-up card that's removed from the game. Its owner shuffles it into his or her library. So you can get it back into the library. Something back into the library that's been exiled. So that's interesting. So anything in this deck, and I don't know if there's anything here which would, apart from you can target yourself with Extirpate and then Riftsweeper. But I'm curious as to if there's anything else that maybe you've exiled. Interesting, because you could Riftsweeper a Cry of Contrition, couldn't you? I think. But once you do that, yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't know the answer actually. Is if you did that, would that switch off the haunt? On whatever creature it's haunting, because that card now wouldn't be exiled. Anyway, not sure. 2 Putrefys, 1 black-green, destroy target artifact or creature, it can't be regenerated. Another copy of Damnation, destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated. And we got 3 copies of Tombstalker. This is 6 and 2 black for a 5/5 demon. It has flying, but it also has delve on it, so you may remove any number of cards in your graveyard from the game as you play this spell. It costs 1 less to play for each card removed this way. Now it's in a future sight frame, so I'm assuming at this point delve wasn't a thing, and I don't know without going through the set, because it's been a while since we've done set musings, and I will include anything previously in episodes. I've said that, when we get into certain sets, I'll include the set musings. For this one, it's going to be anything related to 10th edition. But if you look at previous week's episode, like last week's, there should be a link to the set musings for Future Sight and pack openings for Future Sight. But everything's findable on the channel. I've got playlists for all of the set musings anyway. They're pretty easy to find. Okay, let's dive in. Go down some rabbit holes. So yeah, very nice artwork in 10th edition, I think. But I'm biased because that's the first Magic the Gathering product I opened was 10th edition. Okay, Urborg's in the deck. So we have looked at this on previous weeks. It's cropped up quite a bit. So let's just, for those of you that haven't seen the previous episodes, I'll look at a few things here, but we won't go too deep. So it's similar to Blanket of Night, which is an enchantment, which does the same sort of thing. It's interesting because you get extra, it's going to fix mana because it's going to add the ability to generate black mana to any of your land that is not already a swamp. So each land is a swamp, and that's across the board. So it's symmetrical, as it says here. So it doesn't apply in this deck, but that's quite handy in decks where you've got Swamp Walk, stuff like that. And it's in addition as well, so it's not going to turn off. It's not one of these land conversion cards where it totally converts land into something else. So universal type change, namesake spell. Let's just look at the land conversion, see what sort of things they're talking about. So you can see I've been here before. So just out of curiosity, those are the lands that do land conversion. So we've got Unstable Frontier. This is a really interesting card, I think. Yeah, it's from, was it Conflux? So you can just taps for colourless mana, and then a target land you control becomes the basic land type of your choice until end of turn. It's an interesting way of fixing. And you can see this here is the green one. That's as far as I've gone with those. So yeah, everything else that's on the list of 71 cards here are basically, you know, things that aren't lands which do conversions, and they do all sorts of conversions. Like this one, all mountains become plains, so that will, you know, can potentially shut down an opponent from, in terms of not being able to generate mana of a certain, you know, type, depending on what mixture of cards they've got. There's some interesting artifacts that do it, like here. Okay, so as I've said, it's part of the cycle of Ravnica bounce lands. If you look at these, as I'd mentioned, and do it by release date, it's easy to spot. You can see at 4, 3, 3, which lines up with the guilds from the 3 original Ravnica sets. And we've looked at the bounce lands quite a bit over the course of these episodes since we first saw them in Ravnica. It's an interesting thing here called a rescue land. So, you know, that's going to be typically land that you bounce back into your hand. And if you look at historically when that first happened, then yeah, visions. So this was a colour and colourless mana. Now some of these, the conditions are a little bit more specific. So with the first time you saw these in visions, you'll notice that the land has to be of a certain type and it has to be untapped. With these ones, which were these plane shift layers, which tend to get forgotten about, they're tri-lands. When it came into play, you had to sacrifice an issue, return a non-layer land you control to its owner's hand. Now, of course, one thing you can do with these, particularly in eternal formats, is you can do interesting things with lands which possibly have an ETB ability on them, although of course with these, because of the presence of specific land types, it gets it a little bit trickier to do that. But again, just something, these seem to be the most open in terms of it's just any land and it doesn't matter whether it's tapped or untapped. So you can, use the land to pay for mana, do something before you then bounce it back to your hand. Treetop Village, So cycle of these. So yeah, the Urza's creature lands. They've been reprinted quite a few times. So there they are originally. Now if I do this, let me just, I think the code is 10E. Yeah, there you go. So there's how they look in 10th edition. So yeah, quite different. Then these also from Ravnica. And again, Shocklands, if you're curious where they came from, you can see again this 4-3-3 breakdown across the Ravnica block. And Llanowar Wastes, these are from 10th edition from the core set. So 10 pain lands. If you're curious about where they came from, Ice Age and Apocalypse. Now let's see what is the case with 10th edition, because that's where we're looking at where they're coming from. And again, you got the full 10. So yeah, it's a cool time for land in standard. You got stuff from 10th edition. You got stuff from Ravnica, and there's a whole load of other stuff as well in between. Right, let's move on to the actual non-land cards. So we've got Damnation in the deck, and yeah, it's a Colour Shifted Wrath of God. We've seen this card before, and there are a number of these sweeper, destroy creature things. Now, this one is at sorcery speed, and if we look at that as a type, you'll see that Wrath of God goes way back, and then we've got things like Juckle-Hoops, Winds of Wrath. Now, of course, again with these, they're all slight variations on here. I've got things like Obliterate. So all of these either, at the very least, do creatures, but will also do other things in addition to creatures. And like I said, there may be some conditions applied to those. And interestingly enough, we had this Day of Judgment, which is 2 and 2 white, destroy all creatures. That was in Zendikar. So the difference between this and Wrath of God is that the Wrath of God and this also have, they can't be regenerated on them. So there you go. Oh, the rack. So yeah, so it'll, you know, if you can get this going and start emptying your opponent's hand, then, you know, it's gonna, the best case scenario, it's going to, if the hand is completely empty, it's going to bolt them. So burn player, faux targeting, because it's you're choosing an opponent, and then it doesn't actually say target opponent going forward. It just refers to the chosen player and doing damage to that player. So there's a number of cards where it doesn't specifically say, you know, target player. It's implied by what's happened before, by you picking a player. So rack effect, hand size hate, and there's a number of cards which do that. We'll specifically look at permanents that do it, so it's like a repeating effect. We'll have a look here, rack effect as well. So yeah, a mirror of black vice. A black vice, same sort of starting things. It comes into play. Choose an opponent. So at the beginning of the chosen player's upkeep, black vice deals X damage to that player, where X is the number of cards in his or her hand -4. So that minus is flipped over. And yeah, there's a number of cards which are similar in some way. You know, this one's just restricting the hand size, doesn't do any damage. Rattling, it's doing damage based on number of cards in their hand fewer than 3. It's 4 to cast, and it's also a creature. We've got Wheel of Torture, we've got Storm World, which is a world enchantment, and we've got Pauper's Cage. So they're all playing around a little bit with looking at the hand and then, you know, doing accordingly or directly restricting their hand by locking it down like Cursed Rack does. Yeah. So rack effects, the players get burned or lose life for having a small hand. Second operand. You can see what I've been doing this morning. Yep. And there's the original rack as it appeared in Antiquities. That's where it's coming from. You've got things like Ivory Tower as well, which is a mirror of Black Vice. And then similar to Iron Maiden, Fevered Vision, Hand Size Matters, so Terror is in this deck, and we're going to see a lot of things here when we get in here. So Mirror's Purge. So Purge is a card for 1 and a white as opposed to 1 and a black that will destroy target artifact creature or black creature. It can't be regenerated. So yeah, it's the reverse of that. reverse of terror. Got similar to Ghastly Demise, single black, destroy target non-black creature if its toughness is equal to, is less than or equal to the number of cards in your graveyard. Shriekmaw basically has this card stapled to it. So that's terror stapled to it. And the evoke cost for it, where you just want to use the spell, just use the non-creature spell part of it, it is in keeping with the cost of the card. So, but yeah, they tagged it up as Doomblade stuff. So Doomblade is this tag for 2 CMC, destroy target creature unless it's something. And there's 42 of those cards. Now, that type of thing existed before Doomblade was printed. And if we remember to put in these first printing clause, we can sort of see what's going on here. So, we've got Terror way back here. Here's Doomblade. So Doomblade takes away or the get out for artifacts. So the only get out is if it's a black creature. Everything else, any other type of creature, gets destroyed. And then go for the throat. The only thing it won't destroy is artifact creatures. And there were, for certain sets, there were theme-specific variations on that. And of course we've seen subsequently spells where there is no restriction, albeit slightly more expensive. Call of the Herd, we've looked at this previously. You can obviously cast it from the graveyard because of flashback. Trumpeting Herd has rebound on it, so this is 2 and a green. Trumpeting Herd is 2 and 2 green. Both create 3/3 green elephant creature tokens. With this particular card, Call of the Herd, the casting from the graveyard is done through flashback. With Trumpeting Herd, you have this rebound effect. So if you cast a spell from your hand, you exile it, and at the beginning of your next upkeep, you can cast the card from exile without paying its mana cost. So the window of opportunity is just for the till the beginning of the next upkeep. That's when you get the choice to do that. The Call of the Herd, of course, you can decide to flash back at any time, but once you've flashed it back, you have to remove it from the game. However, as you saw in the sideboard, there is a way of getting cards back, so we just check to see whether that does apply in this case. And there's quite a bit of cards that help out with graveyard recursion stuff, if that's something you want to do. And the whole cast from the graveyard business in Magic is, around and has predated this because of the presence of flashback, which came from Odyssey, which is, that particular card is also from Odyssey. So most of it You can see a lot of the cards here where casting from the graveyard is a thing and are tagged up as such is because they have flashback on them, and there were just so many of those in that block. And then we see it again. It was something that they had in Time Spiral, and you can see also there's some of it in Future Sight. We've got flashback here, but then we've got another sorcery here that does it, gets stuff back without that flashback. And then it appeared because of Retrace in Eventide, so we've got Eventide to look forward to. And flashback came back in Innistrad. Again, quite heavily. Yeah. And then for this set, which was Amonkhet, the ability to get stuff from the graveyard came about because of Aftermath. And so you can see there's a number of Aftermath cards here. Again, you have quite a heavy presence in the set, and then we move into a few random cards here and there. But again, we've got some stuff in Ravnica, Guilds of Ravnica, care of Jumpstart this time. But then we got more flashback from Modern Horizons. And you can see Disturb gives us graveyard shenanigans, ability to cast in Innistrad, Midnight Haunt, and so on. Yeah, so Midnight Haunt, Midnight Hunt. Thinking of haunt cards, and you can see quite a number there. We've also got flashback as well. So. Yeah. And then Crimson Vow. So yeah, Disturb, flashback. And the end is listless. Yeah. Right up to Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Got some escape stuff here. Okay. Yep, Stupor. Target opponent discards a card at random, then discards a card. So it's better than Mind Rot. So the target player discards 2 cards for 2 in a black. But worse than Mind Twist. And I'm assuming that's because of the so this is, it's a random discard for any of the cards. This one is discarded at random, the other one isn't. With Mind Rot, neither of the cards are discarded at random. So this is somewhere between the two extremes. Like, all random, all not random. And if you look at random discard through Magic, and when you look at the first printings, you can see as our old friend, Hypnotic Spectre. We got Mind Twist, we got some old school legends. Of course, Hymn to Torak, best card in Fallen Empires. I think that's my favourite artwork, actually. trying to remember what the artwork was for that yet. That's pretty cool. So's that. Yeah, those two probably. Band in Pauper, surprise, surprise. There's our friend Stupor, because of course it's a time-shifted card. And that was originally from Mirage. Black cat. A few spectres in here as well. Got Mind Shatter. There's X and 2 black. And then your bottomless pit here. So during each player's upkeep, that player discards a card at random. I wonder what a Goyf pit deck would look like. It's my Goyf pit deck. I suppose you'd have to come up with something else that gave you a bit of an advantage in discarding your own cards as well. I'm gonna hymn myself. Alright. Oh, Smallpox. Lovely. So yeah, it ticks a number of boxes because, you know, the player's losing 1 life, or where each player, again, Symmetrical Spell. Discard a card, sacrifice a creature, then sacrifice a land. Fortunately, it's a sorcery card. It's not happening every turn. It's not like a... Oh, what's that? Legendary? I'm trying to think now, anyway. Yeah. So, yeah, whatever legendary is banned in Commander. In one of its forms. I think it's the mono black. Is it Braids? I think that's right. So yeah, it ticks loads of boxes. Discard, mutual sacrifice, remove creature, sacrifice outlet creature, single word name, discard outlet, opponent loses life, removal land, sacrifice outlet land, symmetrical. Pox is here as well. Oh, this is the one, yeah, you lose 1/3 of your life, discard 1/3 of the cards, sacrifice 1/3 of the creatures. Okay, what about Pox Goyf then? My Pox Goyf deck. Did they reprint Pox in anything? Is there a modern Pox deck? Has it ever been... What did I do there? Sorry. No. Oh well. It was reprinted in 5th edition, so yeah, no modern Pox deck. I'm assuming there's cards similar to full-blown Pox. But I mean, I'd sort of assume this, but I'm right in saying that Wizards don't really like printing cards like this. It just makes it miserable. It sort of stops you playing Magic. So yeah. That I was just looking to see whether they did mention about symmetry here. I don't think. That's it. Okay. I think that's as long as we want to spend on Pox. Cry of Contrition. never reprinted. Discard with the set mechanic, which happens quite a bit. You won't be surprised to know. But let's just see when this first occurred, because it doesn't look like I've looked at this before. Is first printing. Yeah, some of these we've seen already. I was just wondering, do they ever have, strictly speaking, set mechanics back at this time? I suppose they must have done, to some degree. But oh, there's one of our friends from Portal 3 Kingdoms. Oh, there's some old friends here. Yeah, these look like it's no hand, no land fodder. Okay. Oh, there's Augur of Skulls. Oh, I'm so looking forward to going through Shadowmoor actually when we get there and look at some of the stuff from Shadowmoor. I know I've done some artwork from those sets before, but I think I might go back over that for those ones, because I don't know how many cards. I can't remember how many cards I did end up showing. I'm going to just make a decision. I've sort of ended up looping back myself back round again with the Friday artwork video. So, you know, I did them from a certain point going forward, brought them up to as far as I could do, and then I went back in time, and now I've sort of caught up, or not completely caught up, but getting close, because I think I did it around the time of Lorwyn, but it was a bit hit and miss, so I'm just going to decide how far I want to go through. It's just the reason why I did that is because later sets from the time of, say, 10th edition, not 10th edition, M10, generally around that time, you know, probably, well, maybe, I'm just trying to think when I started buying fat packs again, so that would be around what time of the second Mirrodin block, Scars of Mirrodin. So yeah, I'll see how it goes. I might revisit some of the artwork, some of the cards I've already done before, up as far as Innistrad possibly. Yeah, just trying to think, because once it gets up to the Scars of Mirrodin, I did open quite, probably like 12, 13, 14, maybe more packs of boosters. Was when I've only opened 10 booster packs, it's fairly easy to go through the whole set of instances of all the cards I've got. That's why when I went through initially from around Lorwyn period onwards, I sort of did selected cards, because I just said so many cards, relatively speaking, in the binder. But I am tempted to certainly do Lorwyn and Shadowmoor block, and then into let's see, I'm probably going to have to do Shards of Alara again. Why not? Yeah. So, yes, Lightning. Oh, some cool stuff here. Yeah. Yeah, and there's Augur of Skulls. Yeah, really interesting, isn't it? The fact you've got this sack effect on it and a regenerate as well. So that's something you see on I'm trying to think. She got discard with the set mechanic, regenerate self. There's a cycle of these sacrificable creatures from Future Sight. Only one of them looks like it's been reprinted. But when we look at this, oh yeah, that was it, wasn't it? The March effects, the creatures that sacrifice themselves for a benefit. Sacrifice with benefits. Then you've got regenerate self. So let me look at that, because I'm curious where this fits in with a few other cards that are in my mind. And I'm not going to say them in case I get them wrong, because I do that a lot. Okay, Trudge Skeletons was one of them. Has regenerate on it. 1/1 for 2. So yeah, there's a number of really interesting, relatively low cost black creatures that have that on them and are really handy in graveyard reanimation decks. I'm trying to think, let me just grab it. Okay. So there's that Secure Deathkeeper EDH deck that I built, which was based on the Secure Deathkeeper, what do they call it? So I've just got my deck box here with it all sleeved up. Yeah, the theme deck from Cold Snap, funnily enough. Yeah. It was also reprinted, wasn't it? Yep, so oh yes, Eron the Relentless. Unworthy Dead. Wow. Oh. Of course, because spawning pool. And the creature had regenerate on it. Okay. Oh yeah, we're in I see now we're in the era versus where things got seriously powerful. Okay. Oh, I like this. Oh yeah, there's Nightscape Familiar. And of course Chromat, because that's got regenerate on it as well. Now, this is a fun, if you just want a 5-colour commander that doesn't really necessarily synergize, but has some handy dandy utility on it. It's a pretty interesting card. Mortarvore. And we have the Nims, don't we? And probably spot this as being a colour shifted version of something we've seen before. Augur of Skulls, Edge Troll, Cinderbones. And we have these spirit avatars from the set, from, what was it, Eventide. Skitherix. Lots of skeletons. Type. Skelly. Oh yeah, Golgari Grave Troll. Because that's got dredge on it as well. Although they ran out of room to put in the reminder text. Pretty sure I got another deck with that in when I made that paper version of the Magic the Gathering Online. Like those original two EDH decks they had, like precons. Yeah, and one of them had a few dredge cards in it, and I did some graveyard business. It was like a graveyard deck was one of them, and then the other one I think was an Enchantress deck, I think. Tarmogoyf. We have looked at this quite a bit already. Yeah, so this future mechanic reference, because of the presence of Planeswalker and mechanical foreshadowing, similar to the Souls of the Lost, referenced by Chimney Goyf. Card types in the graveyard matter. So yeah, you probably come across this subsequently in various guises. Let's just come in here. So start off with this, but then we got sort of Delirium plays around with it. Doesn't specifically mention the types. And that was for what? Shadows over Innistrad. And you can see there's quite a number there. Delirium cards. We had Delirium in, was it Modern Horizons? And then, yeah, just... So, beyond Delirium, we don't really see it very often, I don't think. It's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, yeah, I'm sure they rather regret designing this card. So there's one and a green. Star 1 plus star. Wasn't there some story behind this where they made a mistake with the templating? Which slightly upped the power. I know there was a lot of problems around the design of this. I mean, this block is just mind-blowing. I mean, the amount of different mechanics, keyword abilities in the block as a whole is just unbelievable. Plus the fact that they were supposed to also put planeswalkers in it, but they weren't quite ready. So that's part of the reason why this is referenced, I believe. And the planeswalkers end up in Lorwyn, where they're seemingly totally out of place. But interestingly, I mean, imagine the block with planeswalkers in it as well. You know, I don't know which set out of the three they planned to. I suppose Planeswalkers must have been planned to go in what the future site set, the same one. Were they going to go on this sort of card type? Don't know. It's been a long time since I've heard the story behind the design of this set, and then subsequently Lorwyn to remember the whole, story behind it. Dark Confidant. So I'm sure we've talked about this before, but it's one of these invitational cards. So what do we know? So similar to Ad Nauseam, which I believe is also in, wasn't that reprinted in 10th? Trying to remember. No, sorry, Shards of Alara, that's it. It's in Shards, right. Yeah, I do not like that artwork. It gives me the creeps. Painseer, Thoughtstring Analyst, Caustic Bronco from the most recent set, as of the recording of this video. I don't even know if that set's quite out yet. I don't think it is. Although it will be, I think, by the time this video drops. Maybe. Yeah, I always lose track now because I'm do my set musings episode, and then that's about me done with new sets, I'm afraid to say. So when did I record? So it went out on April the 6th. I recorded that set musing for Outlaws of Thunder Junction, and I'm recording this video on the 9th for release on the following Monday. So yeah, Dark Tutelage. Oh yeah, I remember this from M11. So yeah, this is one of these invitational cards. So cards designed by the players who won invitationals. The original print traditionally features the winning player. I'm never sure with these whether chronologically they went out in the order in which the person won the invitational. I think it does line up that way, but I'm not 100% sure if that is the case with all of these. Snapcaster Mage. Solemn with the original artwork. Putrefy. Yeah, destroy target artifact or creature. It can't be regenerated. For 1 black-green. So, yeah, Mirror's Mortify, which is a white-black one that does creatures or enchantments. But then, for Modern Masters 3, which, yeah, isn't far off me doing the set musings for this, actually. So, what I'm trying to think either would be I've sort of gone a bit out of order on the filming actually this week, but yeah, so yeah, Modern Masters 3, my set musings for that will drop the week after this drops actually. But yeah, so yeah, the draft signpost cards were pretty messy for this. If I do it by colour, it might be a bit easier to see. Or not. So you can see we got, I think what they did was they did 3 in the allied colours. And you can see one of those is a hybrid. Well, actually that isn't the case, is it, all the time? Interesting. Yeah, so that wasn't always the case. But certainly there appears to be, yeah, 3, you get up to here, so this is still allied colours. Enemy colours, it's 2 of each. Yeah. Riftsweeper, which we've looked at previously, interesting because you get this interaction with the exile zone, recursion from exile cards. And the exile zone is something they played around with when they went back to sort of, you know, they had an Eldrazi theme set, didn't they? I think this one here, yeah, this period was very much that era. They're going, oh, who's behind all of this? And it's like, well, let's think. It could be Eldrazi, could be Phyrexians, could be Nicol Bolas, or all 3. And it was almost like several sets unfolded like that, where, okay, there's going to be some sort of big bad behind this all as we get subsequent sets released. But then who is that going to be? Is it going to be Eldrazi? Is it going to be Nicol Bolas? Is it going to be the Phyrexians? So yeah, so, and in amongst all of that, they start doing some exile manipulation shenanigans. Because wasn't that in the same set as where they had, what was it, Devoid? Around the time of the Battle for Zendikar, when they started messing around with that. What do we have then? We had Ingest, didn't we, as well? And all these strange borders for the Devoid cards. From eggs, oh yeah, here we go. Mudstruck and mine, this is the sort of thing I was looking for. So I was just trying to get the best thing to search for. So if we do from exile, yeah. Terms are ignored, I would hope so. Is Erst. Yeah, I went a bit wrong. There we go. There we go. Okay, so there was something from Everson Restored, and we get into Fate Reforged, and we get a whole load here from Battle for Zendikar. Yep. And then once they've done it once, then it's like, oh yeah, maybe we'll do that again. Good dog. Good doggo. Oh yeah, Tombstalker. So wasn't this another foreshadowing card? Yeah, future mechanic reference. Assuming that's because of the delve. Yeah, graveyard fuel. So, yeah. You have any number of cards in your graveyard from the game. As you play this spell, it costs one less to play for each card you remove this way. So obviously, if you start removing cards in your graveyard, then that's going to adversely affect your Goyf. But this was a sideboard card, wasn't it? Because we're quite deep into sideboard territory now with these. And yeah, there's quite a number of graveyard fuel type cards. From Magic's history. Way back to Headstone. Remove from the game target card in any graveyard. Draw a card at the beginning of your next turn's upkeep. So yep, do that and we will give you something. And in some instances it's better than other things. Yeah, this is what the ATOGs, these two here, like feed off of, don't they? Amongst other things. And an Extirpate, which we've also looked at before in another deck. So yeah, Extirpate and the other card. So this one puts stuff into exile. And yeah, it can obviously be used for disrupting an opponent and dealing with certain decks where there's like key cards, and just getting rid of all the copies. And yep, at the bottom of cards, which exile all the cards, a particular name from a player's hand, library and or graveyard. And as well, this is a card that's not surprisingly weaker in singleton formats. Very similar to Surgical Extraction, which I seem to remember when that came out, that was getting sideboarded quite a bit to deal with problem cards in decks. And related to Eradicate, and if we look at this, probably be not surprised to see the earliest cards is indeed Lobotomy. But yeah, scattered through Magic's history we have these types of cards. And then what we've got, Darkblast. So yeah, single black, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn spell. Sideboard card in this deck, but it's got Dredge 3 on it as well, so very helpful in this deck. Yep, mill self, regrowth self, removal through creature toughness, of which there are quite a number of cards, and again something we have visited a number of times through these episodes. And yeah, the rabbit hole goes pretty deep. So way back to weakness, where it had this asymmetrical removal by creature toughness. Relaxation's interesting. And it's interesting, some of these do, you know, double duty in that you could cast it on one of your own creatures if you wanted to sort of pump it. Now, the interesting thing with this is an enchantment. If I look to see... what sort of instance do we have here? So quite a number actually. Yeah. Just looking here specifically for combat tricks. -1/-1 until end of turn. Draw a card. There's our Darkblast. Got Last Gasp. And there was things like Disfigure. And what was the other one? Yeah, I remember Grasp of Darkness. -4/-4. And then Dismember, which was the -5/-1, 5/1. For 1 and 2 black, or 2 Phyrexian mana. So, yeah. So what set was... because the one I was associated with that is... Phyrexian Obliterator. From... was it first printed in New Phyrexia? Yeah, it was. Which is a 5/5. So Phyrexian Obliterator was in New Phyrexia, but the -5/-5 was in the previous set, fortunately. Yeah, Dismember. So there we have it. Hopefully you enjoyed another muse through a tournament deck. That was really interesting actually. There's a lot of cool cards there. I mean, a lot of stuff we've obviously now revisited a few times, but it was cool to see you know, cards that maybe we'd seen before in context with other cards as well. It's a cool mix here. So thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future episode.